reader. Thank you so much for coming on here again. And if you're new here, please do hit the notification subscribe button because I post regular videos that are pertinent to people in diaspora, but also to people all over. Today I'm going to be talking about making your last will and testament. And yes, don't be surprised. This is the one place where I can tell my kids, don't come in here, I'm walking. So let's do this video on last will and testament. Do you realize that a lot of people, especially men, are very irresponsible? And you only recognize that at the point when they go back to their maker. Even here in the diaspora, you see men depriving their families a lot of things, just gathering money to build up property at home, buy this, buy that, save this, save that. But at the end of the day, they just leave the face of the earth, leaving their families in utter confusion, leaving their families fighting, almost even killing themselves over their property, leaving their families not even to have access to that property because they don't make their last will and testament. A lot of people, not just people in diaspora, all over the world, it's very common that over 60-70% of people in most countries, they don't even make a last will, their testament. Please, if you belong to one of these people, go and make your last will. Get it written down and signed by witnesses. I'm trying to really break this video down so that everybody will understand it. People that have a legal background, they know where to go for their information. But I'm really breaking this video down for the average man to understand. I'm going to give you reasons why you should make your will. If you make a will, you can decide what happens to your property. If you don't make a will, it is the state, the laws applying in that country that will determine what will happen to your property. Now these days, a lot of people, they don't have a straightforward family again. They are very complex family situations. You may have a family at home, a family here. You may have a child out of marriage. You may have a child with another wife. You may have sisters or parents or someone you may wish to be taken care of if you are not there. But if you die without a will, then the government will decide who takes your property. And you may find that the people you really wanted to take care of are not being taken care of. Why don't we learn from the experiences we see? People are almost killing each other because of property. You see a man dying because the family is struggling, fighting and struggling. Nobody can even lay hands on that property. If you die without a will, that means if you die intestate, for anybody to even distribute your property or share it, they need to go for letters of administration. There the struggle begins. It may even take you a long time to get letters of administration because when different people in the family are struggling, who should get those letters of administration? That now leads to court decisions. Taking years and years, the property will be tied up. Nobody can do anything with the property. But if you make a will, a testament, you will appoint an executor in your will. You will state it in your will. I want so person to be my executor. That means this is the person that is going to execute your last wishes. If you have landed property, the person will go to court and apply for letters of probate. And with this, start sharing your property according to your will. Become a responsible person. Make a will. If you don't make a will, that property may go out of your family. That property may go away from your children. A wife may take the property with her children, leaving other children outside without anything. Make a will so that you don't create bad blood. I keep saying this, I'll keep repeating it. You are alive, you are trying to keep peace between your children. Yet, in dying, you cause the biggest quarrels and enmity. You make it very, very expensive for those children to get at that property. Because they need lawyers, they need to fight. All this takes money. Also, if you don't make a will, you can't find any way of evading the inheritance tax. If it is done through letters of administration, a lot of your money will go to inheritance tax. I've seen where a man left property to his wife in England. By the time they got there to take the property, most of the money went away in different taxes because the will wasn't made properly. And if you are listening to this video and you think you don't have any property to make a will, even if you have little property or no property, you can make a will, because there are certain things you can do with a will even if you think you don't have property. For one, you can determine who will be the guardian of your children if anything happens to you. If you don't appoint a guardian for your children, it is the government that will appoint one, depending on the country you're living. But you can make your will and say, I wish so and so person to be the guardian of my children. Also, a will is a nice way of thinking about your children, letting them know you thought about them. Even if it's the few jewelry you have, or like African women have wrappers, you can also leave personal belongings to your children. You can also say that the money you have should be used to settle the debts made at your funeral. So there's every reason to make a will. And really, if you don't have any property, you don't even need a lawyer to make a will. Most people don't want to make a will because they think it's very expensive. But if you have really hardly anything, you can make your own will, write it, get 2 witnesses who are not going to inherit from you. These people can sign when you sign on that will. That way, you can make your will without spending any money. It's really very easy. If anybody requests for it, I'll make a new video explaining how you can make a will very easily. But I only advise this if you have no landed property, if you have really little. If you have property, go to a lawyer, get your will done. A will is not that expensive. It depends on how complex is your property and how complex is your family situation. By the time you have family abroad, family here, you were married, you have a child here, there, when it starts getting complex, the lawyer is going to charge you. But to reduce cost, what you can do is before going to the lawyer, think about what you need. Think about all your assets. Think about who you want to get your assets. Think about how. All the things you think you would want, think about them before going to the lawyer. Write them down. For instance, if you have minor children, you may want to ask your lawyer, can I put this property in a trust for my children so they get it at a certain age? Who manages the property for your children? For every will, you need an executor. Think about who you want to be your executor. Because An executor has to be a responsible person to be able to handle that property and share it out. Be sure to tell your lawyer if you want your executor to act without bond. What does that mean? In some countries, for you to be an executor, you have to take out a bond. Understand it like something like an insurance. You have to take out a bond with a company so that if you mismanage the property or some money gets lost due to your negligence or your mistake, the people that were to inherit from that will, the beneficiaries, will get compensation through that bond you made. But the problem is that most of these companies that do these bonds, if you are not working and you don't have a reasonable capital, they may not want to give you that bond. Then if they don't give you that bond, you can't act as an executor. Then the court will appoint another executor. So think about it if you live in such countries. If you want your executor to act without bond, also name another executor. If this executor is unwilling or unable to act, so and so should act. Because it's not every executor that wants to execute your will. Some people may decline and say no, and there's nothing that can be done about it. So think about who you want to be your executor, who you want to be the guardian of your children, who you want to get your property, how they should get it. If you write all these things out and arrange them, make your whole family situation clear, your children and everything, and you go to a lawyer, you may find out that it doesn't even cost so much the way you think. But it's very important to have that will. And also, if you make a will, be sure to review it after some years. Marriage, in many countries, a marriage can make a will null and void. So if you get married again, you need to make a new will. Though divorce does not make a will null and void. Also, you also want to think about things like, if you make a will giving things to your children, what happens if one of those children should die before you? So you, God forbid, but you want to make that condition and say, in the event of my child passing away, his or her own share should be shared among the children. So if you haven't done that, sit down today, think about everything you have and how you want it to be shared. And go to a lawyer, because the lawyer will advise you what is allowed and what isn't allowed. I have to mention this too. If you have children and you cut them out of a will, in some countries that doesn't work. They will still be given a part of that money for their maintenance. But if you are living abroad, you are an immigrant or so, do you think the court cares about those children you have back home? No. Do you think your children back home will be opportune to come to the country you are to fight for these things? No. So that's another reason. Make it very clear to your lawyer. So let me end this video here. Nobody wants to think about that. But if you haven't made your will, today should be the day you give this a serious thought. Don't leave your family crying in frustration and anger about your property. Don't let your property go into the wrong hands. Allow your family to mourn you as a respectable person that cared for them even until death.